Let me ask you something honestly. Are you making just enough to get by, but never enough to actually feel safe? Does every month feel like you're balancing on a wire, one small push away from falling? Payday comes and within days it's gone, and somewhere along the line you started believing a dangerous lie. That if you could just earn a little more, everything would finally fall into place. That a bigger paycheck would bring peace, stability, and eventually wealth. But here's the part no one tells you. You've been given a half-truth. Work hard, follow the rules, and you'll succeed. But what they didn't mention is that the system around you is engineered to drain you faster than you can fill. The ads, the "you deserve it" messages, the easy financing, none of it is accidental. It's intentional. And you've been playing inside that system your whole life without ever questioning it. Machiavelli warned about this centuries ago. He said, people aren't destroyed by a lack of opportunity. They're destroyed by misunderstanding how power works. Money is no different. Income is not power. Control is. Here's a truth most people never confront. You don't feel trapped because your salary is too small. You feel trapped because you don't have a strategy. Wealth doesn't start when your paycheck grows. It starts when your behavior changes. I didn't learn this from a book. I learned it the hard way. There was a time when I was convinced the next raise would fix everything. I thought more money meant more freedom. But when the money came, nothing changed. The stress stayed the same because my habits hadn't evolved. It wasn't until I stopped blaming my income and started examining my actions that things finally began to shift. That's when Machiavelli's thinking clicked for me, not as theory, but as a survival manual. And if this idea makes you uncomfortable, that's actually a good sign. Real transformation always begins when illusions break. History proves this over and over. Take Rockefeller. Before the oil empire, before the billions, before the power, he was just a young bookkeeper earning an average wage, nothing remarkable. But from his very first paycheck, he followed one rule with absolute precision. He paid himself first. Even when money was tight, even when it seemed irresponsible, even when others questioned it. He believed something most people never grasp, that his future self deserved a portion of his income before anyone else. That single habit didn't make him rich overnight, but it gave him something far more valuable early on: control. And control always precedes power. Most people do the opposite. They pay rent, bills, subscriptions, convenience, and then, if anything remains, they think about saving. That's not a plan. That's surrender. That's reacting to life instead of directing it. Machiavelli had no respect for reactive people. He believed that fortune favors those who prepare, not those who hope. So, let's start with the first move. Pay yourself as if you owe yourself money. Think about it. If you owed your landlord and decided to wait until next month, what would happen? Pressure, consequences, urgency. But when it comes to your future, you treat it like a suggestion, something optional. That's backwards. Your future self is the most important creditor you will ever have. Ignore it long enough, and it will collect in ways far more painful than late fees. Now, people push back here. They say, I don't make enough to save. But that's not logic, that's an excuse. Because the amount isn't the point, the habit is. Whether it's $20 a month, $100, or $200, you move it aside before anything else, before bills, before food, before entertainment. Is that life-changing? No, but that's not what it's doing. It's rewiring your identity. It's training your brain to accept one powerful truth. Wealth building is non-negotiable. It's not something you do when things are perfect. It's something you do because things aren't perfect. This is how real wealth starts. Not with luck, not with big wins, but with small, consistent discipline that feels almost meaningless at first. Buffett understood this. As a teenager delivering newspapers, he saved aggressively, not because he was earning a fortune, but because he understood the power of habit. He once said, the best investment you can make is in yourself. What he didn't say directly is that self-investment starts with self-respect. And paying yourself first is exactly that, a declaration that your future matters more than your present comfort. Once you start paying yourself first, something subtle shifts. You stop seeing money as something that just passes through. You start seeing it as something you control. And that shift,
quiet as it is what separates those who eventually win from those who stay stuck forever. You're no longer waiting for life to improve. You're building a system that improves regardless of life. Now pause. Don't think about how much you earn. Think about how you treat yourself financially. Are you avoiding it? Are you inconsistent? Or are you just starting? Put it into 1 or 2 words in your mind, because that awareness is the first real step. Now here's what happens next. The moment you start paying yourself first, you feel tighter, more aware. For many people, that's where panic kicks in. They think, this isn't working. Why does money feel restricted? But this is actually the turning point. Machiavelli would call this the moment of truth, when pressure exposes reality and illusions collapse. Because what you're about to realize is this. It's not that you don't make enough, it's that your money has been leaving without your permission. Have you ever opened your banking app and genuinely wondered where it all went? Not casually, but truly confused. It feels like theft, but it's not. Money doesn't vanish. It escapes quietly, repeatedly, invisibly. And until you track it, you're fighting something you refuse to look at. Machiavelli warned that the most dangerous threats are the ones you don't see. The same applies here. Track every dollar like it owes you rent. Until you do, you're operating blind. Most people think they have a money problem. They don't. They have a clarity problem. Here's what that looks like. It's Thursday night, you're tired, and you order food. $30 for the meal, fees, delivery, tip. That's almost $50 for one meal. Friday, same story. Sunday, maybe worse. Add a drink, dessert, and none of it feels like a decision. It feels automatic. Then the end of the month hits, you check your statement, and it's $800 or more on delivery. You thought maybe $200. That gap between what you think you spend and what you actually spend, that's where your wealth is quietly disappearing. And it's not just food, it's coffee, subscriptions you forgot about, small purchases that somehow turn into large bills. None of it feels dangerous in the moment. That's the trick. Power is rarely taken from you in one big move. It's taken through hundreds of small ones. The wealthy have always understood this. The Rothschilds tracked everything, not because they were cheap, but because they were precise. They knew where their money was going, which meant they knew where to redirect it. Awareness creates leverage. Without it, you're negotiating from a position of weakness.
Now, here's the important part. You don't need a fancy system, an app, a spreadsheet, even your notes app. The tool doesn't matter, the act does. Because when you start seeing your numbers clearly, something uncomfortable happens. You stop lying to yourself. You can't say, I don't spend that much. You can't say, it's just this once. The numbers don't care about your story. They show patterns, and patterns reveal identity. This is where real discipline starts, not from motivation, but from discomfort. Whether you're in your 20s spending on things you barely use, or in your 40s wondering where years of income went, the realization is the same. You're not actually broke. You've just been careless in ways you never questioned. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's power. Machiavelli believed that once you truly understand something, you're forced to act. Most people never reach that point. So the next shift is this. Live like you're broke, even when you're not. This is where ego gets involved. We live in a world that rewards appearance over reality. Looking rich matters more than being free. But the truth is, rich people often look average, and average people try very hard to look rich. The middle class is trapped between, draining itself to maintain an image. When you live below your means, you create margin, and margin creates options, and options create power. Think about someone driving a 10-year-old car, no debt, consistently investing. That person has more power than someone driving a brand new luxury car on EMI, living paycheck to paycheck. One is free, the other is trapped by image. You see this everywhere. A software engineer living simply for a few years, investing consistently, building a solid portfolio. Meanwhile, someone earning double upgrades everything and ends up stressed and dependent. Same world, different outcomes. Not because of income, because of discipline. This is stealth living. You intentionally make your life cheaper than it needs to be, not because you enjoy struggle, but because you value leverage. Now, once you create margin, the next move is to build quiet income,
Forget everything hustle culture told you. The goal isn't to suffer more, it's to build systems that earn without constant effort. Freelance work you do once a week, digital products you create once and sell repeatedly, templates, scripts, undervalued items. Nothing flashy, but effective. I know someone who created a simple digital product years ago. They barely touch it now, but it still generates a few $100s every month. Over time, that becomes serious money. And more importantly, it changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who depends only on a paycheck. You become someone with options, layers, backup systems. That's what power feels like. Not loud, not flashy, stable. But once you build margin and quiet income, a new danger appears. The urge to touch it, to reward yourself early, to break the system just a little. If you don't learn to protect what you've built, you'll slowly destroy your own progress. So make your money untouchable. Open a second account with no debit card, no easy access, no app on your phone. Automate a small transfer every time you get paid, then forget about it. Out of sight becomes out of mind. Out of mind becomes untouched, and untouched becomes still there a year later. This is how people on average incomes quietly save over time, not because they're smarter, but because they remove temptation. Now, invest, even if it's small. This is where most people hesitate for years. They say, I'll start when I have more money. But that moment never comes, because investing isn't about having money. It's about becoming the kind of person who invests. People who start early don't wait for comfort. They act while it feels small. Buffett bought his first stock as a kid, not because the amount mattered, but because ownership changed how he saw money. That's the real shift. Ownership. Poor thinking focuses on spending. Wealthy thinking focuses on owning. Spending disappears. Ownership compounds. And finally, build stealth wealth. Most people think wealth is loud, cars, clothes, vacations, status. But those are signals, not substance. Signals attract attention, and attention creates pressure. Real wealth avoids all of that. Machiavelli said the strongest position is the one least noticed. Not hidden out of fear, but protected through strategy. You move quietly, and your money grows quietly. A millionaire often looks invisible. Simple clothes, normal car, no noise. That's not an accident. That's control. Old money understood this. They stayed wealthy not by showing it, but by protecting it. Visibility invites interference. Quiet protects momentum. That's the real flex. Not worrying about a $500 emergency, owning your time, being able to say no, sleeping peacefully because your life isn't financed. That's wealth, not noise, silence. Now automate everything and forget about it. Motivation fades, discipline weakens, life gets busy. Machiavelli never trusted human consistency. He trusted systems. Automatic transfers, automatic investments, automatic payments. Everything handled without asking you. Because you won't always feel disciplined, but automation doesn't care. It executes anyway. That's how wealth compounds quietly in the background while you live your life. The less you think about money, the more consistently it grows. Systems outperform willpower every time. Years pass, balances grow, and one day you look back and realize you didn't hustle your way out of scarcity. You designed your way out. You don't need a higher income to build wealth. You need better behavior, better systems, more control. Quiet wealth isn't built with hype. It's built with habits, patience, structure, and restraint. Build the system once, let it run, let time do the heavy lifting, and let silence protect your progress. Now, don't think about where you are, think about who you're becoming. Not trying, not starting, becoming. One word, that's it. Because once that identity is set, everything else follows quietly. If this shifted the way you see yourself even a little bit, then don't stop here. Subscribe, because every video here is designed to sharpen your mindset, increase your value, and separate you from the crowd. No fluff, just strategy. Most people will watch and move on. A few will stay and change. Decide which one you are.